Welcome in to the Skol Purple podcast. I know it is a Bears preview episode, but, I had to get the Skol chant out of the way. So, Larry, first of all, welcome in. And, of course, good to have all the listeners and viewers out there as well with us. First of all, how you doing, man? How's it going?
Oh, we ended the preseason on a pretty high note on Saturday, our first undefeated preseason in 28 years. Which means nothing, of course, because the year that the Lions went 0-16 back in 2008, they were 4-0 in the preseason. So Take that for what you will. But we saw what we wanted to see from our offense in that last preseason game. So now it's just chomping at the bit. 13 days from now, week 1 against San Francisco. That's all we're caring about right now.
Yeah, that is a big game for you guys for a lot of reasons, but we'll get into that here as we go throughout the show today. But Larry, tell us a little bit about your podcast, Bears Talk Underground. Give us a little history of that and your Bears fandom, if you will, too.
Oh boy, born and raised in Chicago, so I was right in the teeth of it there for a while. Born and raised on the North Side. But podcast was born in 2007, formerly known as the Chicago Bears Review, made the change to Bears Talk Underground in 2018 when I joined the Sports Drink Network, because I wasn't going to have the Bears telling me to cease and desist because I was making money off their name and everything like that. But it's been a passion project of mine. Whether if it was one person listening or a million people, I'd be doing it anyway. So I've always loved doing it. I'm actually a broadcaster by trade, is what I went to school for. Just wasn't able to find a gig in the real world, unfortunately. So this is what I do to scratch the itch.
Very cool, man. Very cool. Well, it's great to have you on. And fellow Iowan right now, at least. I'm from Northwest Iowa. You're in you're in
more like the Southeast.
Southeast.
I'm in Cedar Rapids right now, probably heading back to the Quad City area, right on the Mississippi River there in the next few months.
All right. Very cool. Well, glad to have you on. I hesitate to say under bad circumstances based on, what the Bears roster looks like right now, but I guess it's still good to have you on better circumstances for the Vikings, at least on paper, which we know that paper doesn't always tell the true story of how things go. But let's go ahead and dive right in. First of all, what were your thoughts on the Bears offseason moves, and how have you seen those develop, I guess, throughout training camp and the preseason here?
Well, I can sum up the offseason in one word: boring. It was boring. After we got done with the extensive coach and general manager search, Ryan Pace left the cupboard bare for Ryan Poles. He only had 5 draft choices to work with, maybe about 30 million or so in cap space, and a roster that needed to be overhauled. So, there wasn't a whole lot going on. We knew that the Bears weren't going to be major players on day one or, even the first week of free agency. Ryan Poles even said so. We're going to be players in the second and third wave of free agency. So that's how you get guys like Equinemius St. Brown, Byron Pringle, Justin Jones, and, guys like that, I forget his first name, but Muhammad from the Colts coming over with Eberflus and things like that. And then right there towards the end of the offseason and going into training camp, Michael Schofield, the guard from the Chargers, Riley Reif, who's played for almost all the teams in the North Division now, bringing them in at the last minute right before camp. So it's like it's more of a, bodies kind of thing right now, and seeing what sticks, who can we develop. And it was more about the draft, because Ryan Poles really went to work on draft day. I know he didn't pick for the first time until early in the second round, and he made the picks. Everybody thought he was going to trade one of those second round picks or move back in the third round or something to try to pick up more. And he made all three of his picks. And then day 3, he turned the 2 picks that we had there into 8 picks, because we ended up finishing with 11 draft choices. And one of those draft choices is going to be our starting left tackle, Braxton Jones. We got him in the 5th round. So, this is more of an emphasis on changing the culture and, building through the draft, developing these 11 guys that we chose in the draft. And right now, like, our top 4 picks are going to be starters. Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker, Velus Jones, and Braxton Jones. And then a host of them are going to be contributors. Elijah Hicks is going to be on special teams, and we're going to have depth at the offensive line position. So it might not look pretty on paper, but I think we've got, the right guy at the helm in Eberflus, and I think we're going to be okay. I think we'll see progress on the field. Maybe not so much in wins and losses, but I think we're going to see these guys play and compete this year.
So let's talk about your quarterback, Justin Fields. He was highly regarded coming out of Ohio State, probably one of the top quarterbacks of the draft class, at least. He kind of had what probably most people would say an underwhelming rookie season, but I mean, did he have a fair opportunity? That would be another question. Then you can talk to us about that a little bit too. But I think that he's got the potential still. I really do. It's just a matter of what have they put around this guy that he can actually go out there and succeed. Especially, I think it's even worse, at least on paper, from what it looks like this year compared to last year. I'm interested to hear what you have to say on that.
Well, that's where we go back to Ryan Poles leaving the cupboard bare. There was only so much he could do with the resources that he had. He didn't even have a first round pick to trade away to get a top flight receiver or an offensive tackle or anything like that. I think he's done well with what he had, and the results have looked pretty decent in preseason. But as far as Justin Fields, did he get a fair shake last year? Absolutely not. He did not. From day one, Matt Nagy's plan was Dalton's going to play. He's going to be the starter. Justin Fields is going to be the next Pat Mahomes while he sits and listens and learns and watches. And then in 2022, he'll take over the helm and be the next great quarterback in the NFL. And then 6 quarters into the season, halfway through game number 2, Andy Dalton suffers the knee injury, and now Justin Fields is the starter. And Nagy did not even put that in as a plan B, because he didn't even let Justin Fields practice with the ones in training camp at all last season. Did not let him practice with the ones. It was Andy Dalton or nothing as far as that goes. Even during the preseason, when Justin Fields was outperforming Andy Dalton, did he see time with the starters? He was back in there with the 6th, 7th, and 8th wide receiver on the roster and doing what he can. And like I said, outperforming Andy Dalton at every turn in the preseason. So, I mean, and then when you finally made him the starter, that the first game against Cleveland, week number 3, they sacked him 9 times because they kept leaving, no help on the outside, no tight ends leaving in the block, no backs, picking up the blitz or anything like that. And he got massacred. 4 sacks in the first half, made 0 adjustments going into half, and they sacked him 5 more times in the second half. So, I mean, it was embarrassing to watch, and the season didn't get much better. He did not tailor the offense to what Justin Fields does best, what he brought with him from college, 4.4 speed and, is elusive, can move around in the pocket, deadly accurate arm. But, he never put him in a position to be able to do anything with that. He kept running Andy Dalton's offense when Justin Fields was out there. So he did not get a fair shake last year. I mean, a lot of people wrote that season off, because Matt Nagy's stubbornness just would not. He wanted Justin Fields to run his system, and rather than run the system that works best for Justin Fields, and that's why it didn't work.
So do you think he is better suited for success this year than last year, at least based on where the offense is going to be and what type of offense that the Bears are going to run?
Yeah. And I think that the preseason game against Cleveland is a great indication of that. We did rollouts and get him out into open space, finding his receivers. I think Luke Getsy is doing a really great job so far with this offense, because we're seeing things now that we hadn't seen in Chicago probably ever. Really, like, you're seeing guys that are being schemed open, as opposed to, like, I mean, Allen Robinson had the most contested catches in the NFL for a reason, because he was never getting open on his own, or at least Matt Nagy wasn't calling the plays or running the route patterns that were getting these guys out into open space and things like that. If somebody was wide open, somebody on the defense screwed up, not because it was schemed to actually happen that way. So, I think he's in a better position to succeed. And even though the cupboard might be bare as far as his wide receiving core is concerned, we got Cole Kmet, who looks like he's ready to take off, and we got Darnell Mooney. So he's got weapons. It just doesn't have the plethora that other teams might have.
Well, yeah, I think just based on those two guys that you just said, like, those guys are, maybe solid, a tight end 2, maybe a wide receiver 2, at least from my point of view, compared to some of the other teams in the league. But is that going to be enough to get Justin Fields the type of success that you would like to see from him here in year 2?
Well, we'll see. Like I said, I think we're on our way. And you have to remember, we probably have one of the best running back rooms in the NFL with Khalil Herbert, David Montgomery. We added Treston Ebner from Baylor as a rookie, and things like that. Darrington Evans we got from we claimed off waivers from the Titans. It's a deep room, and Montgomery is probably one of the more underrated running backs in the league right now. But he runs like an absolute animal, and I can't tell you how much I love watching that guy run. We didn't get to see him play until Saturday for the first time. And he was in midseason form, just plowing guys over and making guys miss and things like that. So, I mean, we've got more to work with than just Kmet and Mooney and everything. And then, like I said, I think we also are in a better spot just because the offense appears to, or Getsy and company seem to be true to their word as they were saying, coming in saying we're going to put guys in the best position to succeed. We're going to tailor the offense to what our guys do best. And that right there alone is a victory over what Matt Nagy's been doing for the last 4 years. And so he's been trying to round peg in a square hole for the last 4 years. And it looks like Luke Getsy is working to our guys' strengths. So maybe we're not the most elite talented offense, or we don't have the best guys on paper, but we're going to take what these guys do best and try to maximize that as much as possible.
So anything else that you think is important to mention in regards to Justin Fields and his development? You mentioned, is that the offensive coordinator you're mentioning
Getsy.
there? Luke Getsy. Yeah. So do you think that he's a good fit for Justin Fields? Do you feel like they've done a good job of putting that coaching staff around him?
I do. I really do. Him and also his quarterback coach, Andrew Janako, who you should be familiar with. He only coached like 8 different positions on the team while he was out there in Minnesota.
Just a few,
so,
yeah.
Offensive line, tight ends, wide receivers, quarterbacks. So, he's got it down. So, but I think that they've surrounded him with good coaching. I really like what I'm hearing from Eberflus. It seems like the team has bought into his hits principle, which was always hit or miss, because sometimes when guys come in with acronyms and they always have, these little phrases and stuff. Some players might think that stuff is corny. They don't buy into it, but it looks like our guys are. You see the defense flying around and hustling to the ball and all that kind of stuff. And you're seeing Justin Fields improve. Even in the preseason, week to week, he was doing something better than he was the week before. And I don't know how well it's going to carry over into the regular season when the best of the best are on the field, against him and everything. But I don't think it's going to be embarrassing, because that's all it ever was under Nagy. Like the last 2-3 seasons, it was embarrassing to watch the team. We weren't competing out there. And I think that, like I said, we might not come away with all the wins that we want to have this season. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we're a playoff team or anything like that. That would be insane. But, I like to think that we're going to compete and we're going to be in some ball games, and we might even win a few we're not supposed to. So I'm liking what I'm seeing from the team so far.
Well, let's move on. Keep the offensive theme going here for the Bears. Let's move on to that running back room and the wide receiver room that you kind of had mentioned, the running back side of it. What really excites you the most maybe about that running back room? Obviously, the depth is good, but what are these different backs bringing for the Bears? Different play styles from pretty much all of them?
Well, Montgomery, I think he's more of an all-around guy, because he's a good receiver out of the backfield. I mean, obviously this is a stretch, but I mean, he has Walter Payton traits. Like, he will run you over and he will also try to shake you out of your shoes. He can do both. And like, he does make the catch out of the backfield. He runs angry. He's quick to lower the shoulder and get into guys. He doesn't fumble the football, and he stays healthy. That 4 games he missed with the knee injury was the first time he was out for anything last year, and he came back, strong and had a strong finish to the season when he did come back. Khalil Herbert was a 6th-round pick in 2021, came in and had a 100-yard game against the Packers in Montgomery's first game out after his knee injury. He was, coming out of the backfield. He can also catch the ball a bit. And, it's a great 1-2 that we have with Montgomery and Herbert. And then Ebner, he's going to be more of a special teams guy right now. Maybe he get in there for us like a screenplay and everything. They bring versatility to the board is what they do. It's not going to be like, okay, Montgomery's in, so this is going to be between the tackles, or here comes Herbert, we're going out wide because he's the faster one, or anything like that. You're really going to have to, be on your toes when either one of those guys is out there.
So it sounds like the Vikings, and honestly, if you look at the whole NFC North, I think the NFC North has a pretty loaded set of running backs. I think you look at the Vikings, you got Dalvin Cook, you got Alex Madison, who's being floated in trade rumors, and then you've got Ty Chandler and Kene Nwangwu as well. 2 other guys that are younger but have a lot of potential, a lot of speed. And then you look at Green Bay. Obviously, we know what they have, and Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, and then some other guys there as well. And then you got Detroit with DeAndre Swift and some of those guys there. So there's quite a few solid running back rooms in the division. And so it's going to be interesting to see both of our teams and the rest of the running backs, I guess, too, in the division play this year. A lot of talent in those rooms. So,
yeah.
So let's go to the wide receivers. Obviously, we've talked about Darnell Mooney. I think he's probably a solid number 2, and I think he does have potential to be a number 1, but I think there's still uncertainty if that's really where he could be. So what do you think about this wide receiver room? They didn't do a whole lot to address it, I didn't think, this offseason. And like you said, that cupboard being bare. So what do you think about this Bears wide receiver room right now?
It's a work in progress. I mean, not only because we're basically scraping together to get a room, because there's a drop off after Darnell Mooney and everything. A couple of these guys are hurt. Byron Pringle I don't think he played at all during the preseason because of a soft tissue injury that he suffered in training camp. Velus Jones didn't play in the last preseason game, nursing an injury. We saw some good things from Equinemius St. Brown. We saw Dante Pettis caught a touchdown pass from Fields in the Cleveland game, but it's like, did they do enough in camp to make the team? I'm not really even sure who our wide receiver group is going to be after cuts tomorrow. So it's like, who are the 5 or 6 guys going to be? Or is it like Darnell Mooney, Byron Pringle, Equinemius St. Brown, Bayless Jones? Those are your top 4. Those guys are making the team. After that, it's maybe guys that aren't on the team yet that will fill out that the 5 and 6 spot, the guys that are going to be special teamers or that kind of thing in there. So it's like, as far as the offense is concerned, wide receiver is probably our weakest spot, just because because of the talent level that we do currently have, because these guys haven't played much in the preseason, they're not healthy yet, and the guys that could be on the team may not already be on the team yet.
Yeah. I think one guy that is of interest to me is N'Keal Harry. I don't know if he really got a full run in New England, as much of a run at least as he could have had. So I'm interested to kind of see what he can do, and then maybe Velus Jones too. I don't know what is he a rookie for you guys?
Yeah, that's kind of been the running joke about Velus Jones, because he was in college for 6 years and he's already 25 years old. So,
Okay.
He's anywhere from 3 to 5 years older than guys getting drafted, in the same class with him. But yes, he is a rookie. Despite his advanced age, he is a rookie. And, but he's lightning fast and one of the best special teams players in the country. Last year, the Bears were happy to get him in the 3rd round and, see what he can contribute to the kicking game for us this year, and whatever he can do for us in the receiving game as well.
Do you feel like that's something where the Bears may try and address that via trade at all, wide receiver, or do you feel like that's a pretty set group unless they're able to claim somebody?
I think it's all open, and I mean Ryan Poles has made no qualms about not being afraid to go out there and get somebody if they're available. I know that they've been somewhat aggressive in that as far as the offensive line is concerned, or at least that's what I'm hearing online and everything, that the Bears are beating up the phones to add depth or to add that last minute starter to the offensive line. I'm sure they're probably doing that with our wide receiving core and maybe with our corners, because we've got some guys down in the secondary as well that we could probably upgrade from.
Well, you mentioned offensive line, so let's go ahead and go there. Offensive line, I mean, Riley Reef, of course, former Viking, former Lion. He's played for everybody, as you said, except for Green Bay. I don't think he's played for. And then you got Michael Schofield, Lucas Patrick, Cody Whitehair, and then Braxton Jones. What do you like about this group? What don't you like about this group? Is there hope for this group? I'm a little, like I said, I'm still really worried for Justin Fields, because I still don't know if there's enough around him in the wide receiver room, the offensive line, and the tight ends group. But let's talk about this offensive line. What do you think of it right now?
Well, I mean, it was kind of what I mean, with Ryan Poles himself being a former offensive lineman, you knew there was going to be some emphasis on it. And, word around the campfire was he did not like what he saw from the offensive line last year. So that has pretty much been like point of emphasis for him, was overhauling the offensive line. So right now, I think of our 5 starters last year, only one of them is back, and that's Cody Whitehair. Larry Borum will be the starting right tackle, looks like right now. He was in and out of the lineup last year as a rookie. Tevin Jenkins is going to be our starting right guard after he was drafted to be the left tackle of the future, and that didn't work out. He was solid in the preseason at right guard. Lucas Patrick is out with a thumb injury right now, but they say he'll be back for week 1 against the 49ers. So hopefully he's been keeping himself in shape while he's been rehabbing that thumb. Cody Whitehair at left guard's the only guy coming back playing the same spot that he was in last year. And then Braxton Jones at left tackle is a rookie, but this kid must be something special because he's basically been day one left tackle from like the start of OTAs and hasn't given up the job yet. And he's faced some pretty decent pass rushers in the first 3 games of the preseason and held up pretty well. So they're very happy with him. And the good news is Riley Reif and Michael Schofield, who are last minute additions to the offensive line room going into training camp, look like they're going to be the first guys off the bench because they're going with a philosophy like if the veteran and the young guy are on the same level, we're going to play the young guy. And that's what they're doing right now. So if Baram and Riley Reif are on the same level with Reif at the tail end of his career and Baram starting his, they're putting Baram in at right tackle. And then we're going to have a reliable guy coming off the bench as our swing tackle if anything happens.
Yeah, I was just looking at the depth chart, which I'm sure it'll be updated before the first game. But yeah, that's interesting. So that you're pretty certain that they're going to put Reif and Schofield as the number 2, and then who will be your starting right guard?
Tevin Jenkins.
That's right. Yeah. They have him as your backup right tackle on this depth chart.
A lot of moving parts with that offensive line during, I mean, from OTAs all the way through training camp and into the preseason, we've seen some different lineups and things like that. So it's been interesting trying to keep up with everything that's been changing because the Bears' philosophy has been all along, we're going to put the 5 best guys on the field. So, I mean, every day and during training camp, you're hearing about this setup, this lineup, this one. Riley Reif started as the left tackle day one of training camp. Then it was Braxton Jones, and then we had Braxton Jones over at right tackle, and Tevin Jenkins was the left tackle, and then he's moving into guard, and all these different combinations. And it looks like the starting 5 they're going to go with from right to left is Baram, Jenkins, Patrick, Whitehair, Jones.
All right. Well, how about the tight ends? We talked about Cole Kmet. I guess maybe I should ask you too, what level of confidence do you have in that group, that offensive line? It's a lot of new guys, a lot of younger guys. Where do you feel like, if you had to give them a grade, A, B, C, D, or F?
I'll do this because what came into head while you were saying that was scale of 1 to 10.
There you go.
I think I'm at a 5.5, maybe a 6 at this point, because we have seen some flashes of, some holes here and there. But I mean, like the first offensive drive against the Seahawks in the Thursday nighter a week and a half ago, Justin Fields was under fire a lot, but also the Seahawks were blitzing like crazy as well. Well, you go back and you look, and it's like, okay, looks like the offensive line did their job. Khalil Herbert didn't pick up the blitzing linebacker, and that's what caused the pressure. Or there was this and that, and that's why it missed. And, when people were breaking down the film and looking at it, it's like it wasn't all the offensive line. Something else was there, like the offensive line, like out of a 10-play drive, or like 5 pass sets, they were not the culprit like two or so of those times. It wasn't always the O-line not doing its job. So we'll see. This is like I said, all these different combinations, these guys need some time to gel and, become the team within the team, as my old offensive line coach used to say. We're the team within the team. And until that team is set, the chemistry can't really, get started. So once we get everybody in place, like I said, Lucas Patrick's been out the entire preseason with that thumb injury. So when he comes back, then we got to start over with the chemistry and working those guys in together and everything. But what I've seen, those guys can play. It's just a matter of coming all together, building that chemistry. So these guys know, like they say, the left hand knows what the right hand's doing, kind of thing.
Very good. Well, let's get back to the tight ends here. So we got Cole Kmet, Ryan Griffin, and James O'Shaughnessy, and then Chase Allen was also in that battle. Who are the ones you kind of expect them to keep? And again, let's talk a little bit about what you think of these guys, what you think of this group as a whole.
Well, I mean, it's I liked what I've seen in the preseason, because the thing about Cole Kmet is that he spent 2 years behind Jimmy Graham, his rookie season, and then the second year. And the second one was just a complete waste of time because we barely used Jimmy Graham. We gave the guy a raise and then didn't use him. Same thing we did with Allen Robinson. We put the franchise tag on him, paid him $18 million to basically just sit there and run curl routes for 17 weeks. And, it's no wonder he couldn't get out of Chicago fast enough, even though a new regime was coming in. But it's like Cole Kmet's development. It's the same thing as kind of like Justin Fields, because we weren't using him properly or using him at all for that matter. There'd be times where he was logging in like less than a handful of plays each game. And then God forbid we actually throw him the ball in one of those reps. He didn't score a touchdown last year. He did not have a touchdown pass, but a guy that like Jesper Horsted, a backup tight end, caught 2 passes, both for touchdowns last year. So, the guy was batting 1,000 on touchdown catches when Cole Kmet was second on the team with 60 catches, but you'd never know it from, how insignificant most of those catches were, because Nagy was always running him into traffic, or, he was always using the tight end as a dump off guy, as opposed to actually using him as a key element to the offense. So what we've been seeing in the preseason is, getting Cole Kmet out there, running those drag routes in the middle of the field. He's one of Justin Fields' favorite targets. And that was something I watched a video on YouTube on the Bears channel, where it's like when Poles came in, he told Fields to get with Kmet and Mooney, because those are going to be his guys. And looks like that's what we've been doing, because we've been seeing that chemistry between those three in the preseason so far.
Well, and yeah, my whole thing is it's got to be those two guys, because after that, it's at best very inconsistent players below those guys. And maybe there is room for potential there, but there's just a lot of unknowns with the Bears, it seems like right now. So anything else in regards to the tight end room? Where does your level of confidence for that group?
Like I said, I like what I've seen from Cole Kmet. Ryan Griffin caught a touchdown pass from Fields in the Cleveland game there at the end. We didn't see much of James O'Shaughnessy, but I think he's going to be more of a blocking tight end for us. I think both Griffin and I know Cole Kmet is. I think actually all 3 of those guys are Chicago area products. So it's kind of like they're living the dream playing for the Bears, kind of thing. I know Cole Kmet for a fact. His family went absolutely nuts when they drafted him. They had the video of it online and everything. They had like 12 people in the living room. They were all going crazy when the Bears made the call. But O'Shaughnessy is a Chicagoland guy. Went to Illinois State, so he's coming back home to play for the Bears, and I think he's the favorite to be the number 3 tight end for us. And then Ryan Griffin is probably going to be more of a blocker, but has shown me on occasion during the preseason he can catch the ball as well.
Okay.
So the offense as a whole, it's one big mystery right now, as far as will this translate into the regular season? Will Lou Getsy be able to, scheme this into a successful place? But every single Bear fan in the world is looking at this as an upgrade, because these, like I said earlier, these guys look to be true to their word as far as we're putting our guys in the best position to succeed. We're going to tailor the offense to what they do best and, go from there. So like I said, we might not have the elite talent that we want to have, but we're going to maximize what's out there by doing what those guys can do better.
So overall confidence level in the offense, if you had to put a number of, 5, 6, 7, 8, where would you put that?
I would put it more like a 6.5, and ironically enough, that's about 2 points higher than it was the last 2 seasons with Matt Nagy out there running the offense, because you just never knew what you were going to get out of the offense. I mean, it's just a perfect example. 2019, we come off the bye. We play the New Orleans Saints in Chicago. It is Walter Payton bobblehead day in Soldier Field. Matt Nagy ran the ball 7 times in a football game that was a 1-score battle till about late in the third quarter before the Saints started to pull away. Mitch Trubisky threw 54 passes in that game, and the Saints ran us off the field. Fast forward a week later, we incorporate literally the power I. So we got like a high school offense out there with a tight end acting as a fullback. Montgomery, as a rookie, runs for 155 yards and 2 touchdowns. And what does Nagy say in the press conference afterwards? I didn't come here to run the power I. Like, really, dude? Because it looks like your team is pretty good at it. You might want to stick with that. I'm just saying, our rookie running back just ran for, 100 yards for the first time, scored 2 touchdowns, and, we imposed our will on the Chargers. But nah, we're going to go back to, spreading it out wide and throwing, screens and stuff like that. The defense can see coming a mile away.
I've always been someone who has looked at a good coach is somebody that is able to not put players into his system, but to adjust his system to the players that he has. And I feel like Matt Nagy did not do that, especially over the last couple of years with Chicago.
No, and one great example of that would be Cordell Patterson. When he became a free agent, Matt Nagy pounded the table. I mean, he sounds like a great scout. Like, he knows talent when he sees it, but when it comes down to actually using it, he had no idea how to use Cordell Patterson. And then 1 year in Atlanta, he was like one of the best players in the league.
Last year.
The Swiss Army knife that he was supposed to be in Chicago. And all we got out of Cordell Patterson was 2 all-pro years as a kick returner and special teamer. But the weapon that Matt Nagy envisioned on offense never happened because he didn't know how to use him.
And that was the same thing with the Vikings, and that's why he left the Vikings. So, finally, Cordell found his place where he needs to be, but it took a few times. 4th time's the charm, isn't that the saying? Because I think he was in New England. Or no, 5th time.
Minnesota, New England, Chicago.
With the Raiders too, right?
Was he with the Raiders?
I think he was.
I don't know if he was or not.
I think he was. But anyways, it just seems like nobody could figure it out until the Falcons finally did.
Yeah, so, all I needed to do was hook up with Arthur Smith, and all of a sudden the floodgates opened for him.
That's right. Well, let's talk about the defense for the Bears. There's some new pieces in there. There's some guys that left. I know Akeem Hicks, believe he left, right? He's no longer a part of that defense. He was a fixture there for a few years. A menace of Dalvin Cook, as we remember that the collision between those two on Monday nights. But it's an interesting group this year because I think there is still quite a bit of talent in that Bears defense, but there is still some holes, I feel like, too. What are your thoughts on the Bears defense compared to last year, and what are your expectations?
Well, the expectations are, it's Chicago. This defense is what we do. And we're going back to a 4-3, so it's a scheme change for the Bears. Khalil Mack was traded away, so he's no longer going to be menacing you guys, twice a year anymore. He's out in L.A. with the Chargers, giving a terrorizing combination with him and Bosa.
That is crazy.
Shudder to think what that's going to look like. And that division is going to be the absolute Wild West, like literally this year. Yep. But, Khalil Mack is gone. Akeem Hicks is gone. Bilal Nichols is gone. Danny Trevathan is retired. It's just, and Roquan Smith held out for most of training camp.
Yeah.
But hasn't played it down in this new offense yet. So his first actual game action with this offense will be week 1 against the 49ers. So no, we don't know what we're going to get. We know where he's going to play. He's going to be the weak side linebacker. He's going to be the Lance Briggs of this 4-3 defense. Kyrus Tonga is, I think second-year player for us. Was a nose tackle for us last year. He's going to be playing inside. We signed Justin Jones to be our 3 technique this year. We also have Angelo Blackson that we signed away from the Cardinals last season. And then on the edge, we got Robert Quinn coming off of 18.5 sacks last year. And kind
of a renaissance for him.
Oh, yeah. And we got Muhammad and Travis Gibson as the other 2 edge rushers for us. So, it's a decent group where we needed the help was in the secondary, and those were the first 2 picks that Ryan Poles made in the draft this year. First with Kyler Gordon to be the other bookend to Jalen Johnson, and then Jaquan Brisker, who's going to be the Adrian Amos for Eddie Jackson, because when Eddie Jackson had Adrian Amos, Eddie Jackson was the best safety in football. As soon as Adrian Amos, was a traitor, went to Green Bay, rat bastard, all of a sudden, Eddie Jackson isn't quite as special as he used to be because he doesn't have that guy clouding up the inside the way Adrian Amos used to do. So Brisker is an absolute beast, man. He gets his head in there. He's going to be an in-the-box safety, and that's going to open things up for Eddie Jackson to roam around and be the menace that he was. So there's a lot of optimism regarding the defense, far more than there is the offense, although it's not bad on the offensive side. It's more about optimism with the offense than it is about confidence like it is with the defense. Like, we feel pretty good about what the defense can do. It's just a matter of, will they be able to maintain the level of success that they've had? Because even when it wasn't good, it wasn't bad on the defensive side. So it's either been special or decent for the defense for all these years. So we'll see if these guys can maintain or improve upon what was there.
So I'm interested in your thoughts on Justin Jones, Angelo Blackson, Trevis Gibson, some of those guys that you kind of mentioned. What do you like about some of those guys, and why should we know about those guys? Because I don't feel like I know much about those guys, but they're probably going to be pretty key cogs to this Bears defense. So what's to like about those guys?
Well, aside from Robert Quinn, we don't have any household names on the defense. We traded our other household name away in Khalil Mack, and Roquan Smith is probably underrated as far as NFL circles are concerned, but obviously he's well known in our circle with the North and what have you. But as far as national circles and whatnot, Robert Quinn, I think, was still in the top 40 for the NFL 100 players that they just did, or in the top 50, I think, at the very least. I think Roquan was 90 something or whatever. So it's still got a little ways to go as far as Roquan building his national reputation. But guys like Blackson, they fit what Ryan Poles was looking for. He's looking for guys that are gamers, guys that are going to play aggressive, guys that are going to go all out on every snap. And that's what you're going to get from Kyrus Tonga. That's what you're going to get from Angelo Blackson. That's what you're going to get from Justin Jones as well. Same thing with Trevis Gibson. That guy had to play behind Khalil Mack and Robert Quinn coming off the edge, learned a lot from them, and then ended up playing very well last year when Khalil Mack went down midseason with his foot injury. So, he's had to answer the call. He's a 5th round pick. So he wasn't somebody that we, were counting on to be a day one starter for us. Somebody that was going to be a depth player, somebody that we were going to develop. And he was kind of thrown into the fire and has responded very well. So he's going to come in as the other edge rusher to Robert Quinn, rotating in and out with Muhammad. And for him, it's a return to defensive end, because he was a hand on the ground defensive end at Tulsa in college, where he had been a stand-up outside linebacker the last couple of years. So it's a return to something that he's far more familiar. He's returning to a position that got him to the NFL to begin with.
Okay. Very interesting. I think those few players there, and then along with Joe Thomas and maybe Caleb Johnson, I guess whoever you put at that other linebacker spot, I think those guys are going to say a lot about this defense at the end of the year, because we know what Robert Quinn is. We know Roquan Smith. We know what Jalen Johnson can do. We know Eddie Jackson. We know those guys. What can some of these rookies, what can some of these younger players, like you said, who have been kind of behind the 8 ball with being, backups to some of these players, what can these guys do? And I think that's really going to be what tells the success of this Bears defense, just kind of based on what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah. And it all comes down to, believe it or not, living by that hits principle that Eberflus is emphasizing. That's meant more for the defense. It's something that he means for the whole team, but Eberflus is a defensive guy. The hustle, the intensity, takeaways, and and all that kind of stuff. It's all about being attacking on defense, flying to the ball, and the videos that we've been able to see of them in practice, and Eberflus is talking about, know what you're going to do so you can get there fast. Because if you know where you're supposed to be, you can get there as fast as possible. So he wants to see speed. He wants to see an endless motor. He wants to see multiple guys flying to the ball. Anytime there's a football on the ground, somebody with our uniform is picking it up, not the referees or the other team. Even if it's an incomplete pass, we're picking it up, not them, because you never know, kind of thing. So it's just one of those things, leaving nothing to chance, getting after it all the time. And if they follow that, they're going to be on the field, because that's more also what Eberflus is emphasizing. The guys that we see giving us the effort that we want, those are the guys that are going to play. So whether it's a 5-year veteran or a guy that's been in the league for 5 days, if the guy from 5 days is showing us the effort that we want to see, he's going to take some snaps away from the 5-year veteran until he takes them all. Kind of thing. So either the 5-year veteran is going to snap to it, or that 5-day guy is going to be the new starter for us if he's out there doing what we want him to do.
All right, very good. Well, let's go ahead, and before I get into what you're expecting for the Bears record-wise, let's talk about anything else that you feel is important to mention about this team. What are some surprise names, surprise names, anything like that, as a Vikings fan, that I maybe would be surprised to know about this team compared to last year, or anything off the cuff that you kind of can think of?
Let's see. I don't know, really. I mean, I think we've covered pretty much everything. I mean, I think the linebacking core on defense could be the surprise, because Roquan is playing in a 4-3 for the first time. Nicholas Morrow is going to be our middle linebacker, and then Matt Adams is going to be the strong side guy as of right now. So, we'll see how those guys respond. One of the stars of the preseason was this undrafted rookie named Jack Sanborn from the University of Wisconsin. He's that guy that, really showed out in that first game against Kansas City. So, of course, now he's got a target on his back, because there's always one guy that Bear fans fall in love with in the preseason that inexplicably gets cut when the final roster cuts come along. It happens every year. There's somebody the fans fall in love with, doesn't make the team.
I think that's every team, to be honest.
I'm sure it
you.
is.
Yeah.
I'm sure. But I think he performed a little too well for the Bears to take a chance of putting him on waivers. So I actually think he'll make the team, and maybe even see some time on the field. I mean, I'm sure he's undrafted because he's not the most athletic guy out there. The guy just plays football and he makes plays. I mean, that's all he did in the preseason. Anytime, guy was making a tackle or anything like that, 57 was around. So those are the kind of guys you want to have on your football team. So I'd say that, maybe a guy like Jack Sanborn could be a surprise, where, he goes from undrafted free agent to, contributor / starter by the end of the year.
So I think it's interesting to talk about some of these guys, because I think for the Vikings perspective, like I said, the guys that were interesting, to the fan base, they performed really well in this preseason game. Like T.Y. McGill for the Vikings. He did some good things in the preseason, for example, but he's a 28, 29-year-old journeyman. Like, he hasn't, ever stuck really with a team. So he had some good performances in the preseason, but the Vikings are like, we're not buying this. So, and then of course, there's going to be fans that are not too happy about that. Well, why'd you cut him? He was so good for the preseason, but the Vikings didn't play hardly any starters at all this preseason. Yeah. So that's a big reason also why they went 0-3. But I think there's definitely at least one of those guys every year for pretty much every team where it's like, why did they cut him? But it's,
well, I mean, they just emphasize the preseason in such a different way than they used to.
Yeah.
In the NFL, and they used to use those games as tools to prepare for the regular season. They don't really do that anymore. They've put far more emphasis on what they see on the practice field than what they do in those preseason games. That's more they're just filling out curiosity to see how these guys respond to game action. But I think that's why fans' hearts get broken every single year, because there's that guy that you see doing work in those preseason games, but he's really laying a turd in practice that we don't see every day. Some guy that, the guy shows up for game day, but he's not getting it done in practice. And more times than not, it matters more what you're doing in practice than it does in those meaningless preseason games. So that's definitely been a turning point in the preseason over the last several years, that it's not as important to the teams as it used to be as far as the actual games themselves.
Yep, for sure. Well, I think it's going to be interesting the next couple of years when they decide to go down to 2 preseason games, because I think it's going to happen, and I think eventually we're going to have 18 regular season games. But that's another topic for another day. But let's go ahead and talk about the record for the Bears in 2022, the moment you've all been waiting for here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can see, I can reasonably talk myself into, anywhere from 5-12 to 9-8. I mean, because we have the NFC East and the AFC East, not the two strongest divisions, going up against. They're very top heavy, sure. And also the NFC East, it's a crapshoot every single year, because I mean, when I was doing my opponent preview series during the summer, I talked to somebody from every, a blogger, a podcaster, whatever, from every team, and every single one of those discussions at some point alluded to the fact there hasn't been a repeat champion in that division since 2004. So it's been almost 20 years since the Eagles went back to back in 2003 and 2004, which does not bode well for the Cowboys going into this season, because on paper they look like the team to beat. The Eagles look like they're something. I mean, everybody forgets Washington won the division 2 years ago in 2020. And you never know about, how well Brian Daboll's going to get things turned around with the Giants. So it's like, yes, it would be surprising to see the Giants finish in first place, but it's the NFC East, so you shouldn't be surprised, kind of thing. And then the AFC East, Buffalo's really the only team anybody should be worried about. New England, we'll see. Year 2, Mac Jones.
Get a playoff spot, maybe. Back end.
Maybe. And then Miami and Tua, and it all comes down to how that offense is going to respond under Mike McDaniel and everything. And then the Jets are the Jets. They look like they won the offseason, but how does that really translate? And does that translate into wins in the NFL? So it's like in those 8 games, I think the Bears could go 5-3, 4-4 in those. In the division, maybe 3-3, maybe. And then like the same place opponents are Atlanta, San Francisco, and Houston. That's 2-1 right there. So, I mean, it's not that hard to get yourself to 7-8 wins looking at the schedule. And then it's just a matter of how it all kind of falls during the season, because it's like you just look at this in general and be like, oh, well, that's 2 wins there, that's 3 wins there, and so on and so forth. But then how it stacks up as the season goes along, it all factors in. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see us go 6-11 again. And I wouldn't mind seeing us go 9-8. I don't think it's impossible, but will the Bears make the playoffs? I can't sit here and say yes. I mean, even as a diehard drinking the Kool-Aid Bears fan, I couldn't be like, oh, playoffs, it's a done deal. We're going. It's like, I can't do that. Next year, when we have $100 million in cap space and all of our draft choices and things like that, love to see what Ryan Poles is going to do, what magic he'll be able to form when we can be players in day one of free agency and bring in the best available talent and everything, along with whatever progress Justin Fields and this offense make in 2022. 2023, I think, is the year that we make moves, but 2022 is about, resetting the culture, building a team, developing the young guys that we have, and, going from there.
So so you kind of got him at a 9-win ceiling, and then you got a 6-win floor.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Or 5-win
I don't think
floor.
that,
did you say?
I could see 5 wins, 6 wins, because like when I look at the schedule, I can guarantee at least 4. The Jets, the
Mhm.
Falcons, the Texans, and at least 1 from the Lions.
Yeah.
And outside of that, we'll take what we can get. Will the Commanders respond? Will Carson Wentz be the answer, or will Sam Howell have to come in and save him, because that guy's been the MVP of the preseason? How does your squad respond to the new coach and everything that he's bringing in? Will this be another Sean McVay success story kind of thing? Bringing McConnell in and things like that. So we'll see. How does Aaron Rodgers move on post Devontae Adams and everything? So it's not as clear cut as it was in past seasons. So I mean, like I said, that's why the range is what it is, because maybe the Bears haven't made as much progress, but I think Green Bay regressed a little. They might still be the best team in the division. I don't think they're going to win 13 games for the 4th year in a row, though.
Mhm.
So we'll see how it all unfolds. I'm very excited to get it all started.
Yeah, I think I am too. I've been saying that I think the Vikings probably are 10-7. I think that's pretty realistic. I think 11 is their ceiling, and I think I have 7 as their floor. Like literally everything goes wrong. I don't think they go lower than 7, because I just think they got too much talent on this team to go lower than 7. But I think 10 is pretty on par with a decent expectation. And then maybe 1 playoff win. I don't see him going much further than that. And then I think Green Bay probably still squeaks out the division,
Mm-hmm.
Like an 11, maybe 12 wins. I think 11 is probably more on par for Green Bay this year.
Yeah.
I think they might struggle the first couple of weeks with the receiving situation and getting acclimated to some of that. But
yeah, when you replace Devontae Adams with Sammy Watkins,
yeah,
it's not exactly an upgrade. It's not even a lateral move, really.
Right,
So
right.
we got some work to do.
Darnell Mooney, I've talked about him being a wide receiver too for you guys. Like he'd probably be wide receiver 1 for Green Bay right now. Like that's how bad their receiver room is. I think
that's how big a hole Devontae Adams leaves behind as well.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah.
So, but then I've kind of been a little higher on the Lions, which scares me because it's like I don't know, man. Maybe they can somehow get the 3rd place over the Bears, just because I haven't been so high on the Bears, what they've done in the offseason and stuff. And I do understand what Ryan Poles is doing. He is building for the future.
Yeah.
He is trying to get I think he is trying to get a higher draft pick this year. I don't think there's any qualms with that. I think based on the roster and all the cap space that they still had, and they could have made some more moves. I think there's definitely a build.
Well, he's also not done. He's made no secret about how he can be very busy during these next 2 weeks between now and week 1. That's why I was saying the back end of that receiving core might not even be on the team yet. Or, a starting offensive lineman that we have may not be on the team yet. Somebody that's going to be our nickel corner or something like that might not be on the team yet, that kind of thing. So he's not done. He's still got a little bit more work to do, and we'll see what magic he can perform. But it's like all things being equal, if the 53 guys they give us tomorrow are the team that we go in with, I think we're still in line for a pretty interesting season.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'm before I let you go, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on the rest of the division. Where do you kind of see things shaking out?
Well, I'm kind of on par with you as far as how can you bet against Green Bay as long as Aaron Rodgers is on the team? I do like the Vikings as the second best team, and then it's going to be a battle for 3rd place between the Bears and the Lions, and it's watching Hard Knocks is not helping as far as voting against the Lions this year, because I just love what Dan Campbell is doing, how he's talking to that team and getting them ready. I love his coaching staff. Deuce Staley and Aaron Glenn are absolutely insane, and I love the way that they beef at each other on the field and practice and all that kind of stuff. It's been a lot of fun watching that, and they added what's the McCutcheon Hutchinson's,
Yeah, Aiden
and
Hutchinson, yeah.
yeah, and whenever they get Jamison Williams back on, to play wide receiver, they're going to have another weapon there. So I mean, I think that we still got it over the Lions at the quarterback position because I'm not a big fan of Jared Goff, but they seem to be making some good moves in Detroit. So we'll see, how that little battle between the Bears and the Lions unfolds to determine who finishes in the cellar this year.
We'll see how many kneecaps they can bite off in Detroit there.
Right. So
very good.
Yeah.
Well, you go ahead.
Well, I did want to mention that, just to soften you guys on me a little bit, being a stinking Bear fan and whatnot, for quite a few years in the 90s, the Vikings were my other team. Because,
they were? Okay.
Yes, because when Walter Payton retired, my new favorite player in the NFL was a guy named Warren Moon. And
yes.
he was quarterback of the squad for a few years. So it was like when they weren't playing the Bears, I was rooting for the Vikings. So I have a sentimental attachment to the Vikings because there were a lot of great players on those teams in the 90s with Jake Reed and Robert Smith and Jerry Ball and all those guys. I mean, they were just so much fun to watch, and they were better than the Bears like every single year. So at least one of my teams was doing well. So it was always fun. And this was pre NFL Sunday Ticket. So it guaranteed I was going to see Warren Moon play at least twice a year, as opposed to when he was in Houston. Maybe I would catch him in the playoffs as far as a live game was concerned. So, that was nice as well.
Yeah, very cool. Well, it's okay. After this season, if things don't go so well for the Bears, you could just come back on over, if well, there's probably been too much heartbreak for you. I mean, if you're a Bears fan already, like, being a Vikings fan, just imagine that. Like, I mean, full time. Like, we've been through a lot. I don't know if you stopped watching in '98 or that's when you kind of,
No, I've no, I mean, I love the league in general, so I'm pretty up to what also because they're division mates, you pretty much pay attention to what's going on around you, especially with the devil that you do know every single year, twice a year, kind of thing. So yeah, I've been up on the Vikings. I really thought that 2000 team was going to do something, and then the Giants just pasted them in the NFC Championship game, and didn't see that coming at all. It's like the Vikings and the Ravens. That's going to be a hell of a Super Bowl. Nope.
Sure
Sorry.
Isn't.
Yeah. Boy, these Vikings really going to put the Broncos in their place, ruin, John Elway's retirement. Nope. Sorry. It's like, damn.
Brett Favre's going to beat Peyton Manning. Nope.
Oh, my God.
Nope.
Oh, yeah, I'm just going to throw it across the field and across my body in the fourth quarter of the game just because I'm Brett Favre and that's what I do.
Yep.
I'm sure nothing wrong will happen.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, oh, God.
Case Keenum versus Tom Brady. Nope.
Oh, yeah, nope.
The list goes on.
Yeah, we'll go up 7-0 and then 34-0 straight down the gate after that. So
Yep.
Oh boy.
Yep. So
a lot of fun moments along the way, though. The miracle. On Minneapolis Miracle. That was my buddy and I were watching that game together. We were like, what's happening? So
yeah.
Like, did that just happen? What did that guy do?
I was a little hoarse for a few days after that.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So that was fun, and then we all know what happened next week.
I think the only equivalent moment that I could have, it wasn't the end of it wasn't a walk-off like it was for Jefferson, but that Monday night game between the Bears and the Cardinals, the famous Denny Green, they are who we thought they were.
They are who we thought they were.
When we're we didn't score a touchdown on offense. The defense did their best to keep us in it. We're down, I think 5 points, 6 points, whatever it was. They punt to Hester. He runs it back to what was 20-3 to make it 24-20 or 23 or something like that going into the final 2 minutes. When he broke free and he was running down the field and it was just the punter to beat, like we're actually going to win this freaking game. There's no way in hell we should be winning this game. And Devin Hester just scored the game-winning touchdown. That's where I was screaming at the TV, throwing pillows at the wall and all that kind of stuff. That was a crazy, crazy moment.
Yeah, Devin Hester definitely made us scream a few times.
Oh boy. Yeah. Well, just think about that game in 2007 where it was basically him versus Adrian Peterson.
Yeah.
Peterson's first game in Soldier Field, runs for like 260 and 3 touchdowns, but Devin Hester ran 2 kicks back, scored an 80-yard touchdown pass, and with under 2 minutes to go.
Brian Greasy was the quarterback, right?
It's just heaved it out there, and somehow they let Devin Hester get behind him. 80-yard touchdown pass. Hey,
gosh,
why not? Let's go to overtime. No, because we're going to put Adrian Peterson on kick return, and we're going to kick to him for some reason. And he almost runs it. He runs it back into field goal range. Fantastic. So yeah, just a crazy, crazy football game. As a matter of fact,
is it Paul Edinger that made the game winner that game?
No. It wasn't like Matt something. It wasn't Edinger, I don't think, because it was a 55-yarder. Edinger couldn't hit a 55-yarder to save his life. So, because he kicked for the Bears before he was in Minnesota. Trust me, I know. So.
It might have been a prayer if he did hit it. He might have just had a little help there. But
yeah, 55-yarder to win it. It's like, God damn it. I was really looking forward to overtime. This game has been awesome, but now it's over. Oh, well.
All right, man. Well, this has been Larry. Larry, any other final statements, I guess, before we let you go here on the season, on the Bears? Anything else you wanted to mention?
Well, I'm looking forward to our matchups this year because they are easily the most batshit insane games in the division. History says the Bears are going to win in Chicago. The Vikings are going to win in Minnesota. That's been the history recently. Some of the craziest games in the division or in this rivalry have taken place, usually in Soldier Field. The Devin Aroma-Shadu game in 2009.
Oh, gosh.
The one in overtime. Well, a friend of mine that works for the Daily Norseman on SB Nation, we did a podcast for a series I was calling the Retro Rewind. We did a game from 2008 where the quarterback matchup was Gus Frerotte versus Kyle Orton. And somehow the final score was like 48-44. No, it was in Soldier Field.
Oh, was that Soldier Field?
But the final score was like 48-44. Between these two teams with those two quarterbacks, we put 90 points on the board. How did that happen? So, yeah, breaking that down and watching that game over but it's just like this happens all the time. The Adrian Peter and Devin Hester game in 2007 and all that kind of stuff. It's just always something crazy going on between these games, and the NFL flipped it on us this year. We're not finishing in Minnesota for the 38th year in a row.
Yeah, weird.
We're coming to you in like October, and you're coming to Chicago outdoors to finish out the year.
We finished the year in Chicago and Green Bay. Talk about the worst places to want to finish the regular season, but here we go.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward because those are always fun. Those are always fun games, and you can always throw the record books out when the Bears and the Vikings get together. We can also do that for the Bears and the Lions. I can't wait for the day that we can say that about the Bears and Packers matchups, because that's pretty much just like, okay, how much are we going to lose by, as opposed to do we have a shot in this one kind of thing. So that's the whole thing I'm hoping that we'll see is some closing of the gap between Chicago and Green Bay with Eberflus and Getsy and Williams at the helm.
Yeah. I do think Eberflus is a good coach. I just think it might take a couple of years for you guys to really get back into that groove again, where you can. So I think that's why I'm still hesitant to believe in the Bears, and maybe you're right, and maybe the Bears will be a little bit more competitive than I think they will be, but it's going to be interesting to see regardless. So, Larry, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody where they can find your podcast and all that good stuff, find you on Twitter, all that stuff.
Well, you can find the show it's Bears Talk Underground. You can find it on Spotify and Apple and pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts. You can find me on Instagram and on Twitter at BTU_Larry. And I have a Facebook group. Just search Bears Talk Underground and join the group and give us the finger, start a fight, whatever. We're up for it all.
All right, man. Very good. Well, hopefully we'll be able to talk again for a couple of previews for our games. That'll be
Sounds
fun.
good. Let's do it.
That'll be fun to do, and hopefully the Vikings will be in good shape for both of those games. But I'm always cautious with my optimism nowadays. I used to be a lot more drink the purple Kool-Aid, as we say.
Sure.
And now I'm just like, okay, I feel like there's people that are predicting like 12, 13 wins. I'm like, whoa, slow down. This is year one.
Yeah.
Calm down here, guys. But it should be a fun season. I'm looking forward to it. I was ready for week one when preseason week one got here. So it's like, come on, this extra week is going to be hard, but
God, it's terrible. Yeah,
but
it's going to be a long 13 days between now and September 11th, man.
Yep. So, but it should be a lot of fun. Larry, hey, appreciate you coming on and appreciate all the content here, and looking forward to catching up with you again.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
All right. That is going to do it for the Skol Purple podcast here today. Appreciate you tuning in. And as always, Skol.